Hello YouTube, it's Friends Unit here with another PC related video, and this time we bring you this little HP number. Now, as I've said before in one of my other videos, my other half has got me on these Facebook selling groups, which seems to be an abundance of people selling their unwanted bits and pieces. They seem to be quite good for picking up second-hand electronics, and this is no exception. What we have here is we have a HP Compact D230MT. This is a Pentium 4 based machine running at 2.8 gigahertz, I believe. As you can see, we've got the side of it here, and what I'm going to do in this video is just take you on a brief tour and start the machine up. So let's have a little look on the inside. I've already removed the side panel in preparation for this. It's a shame that I didn't get my dialogue sorted, but that's another story. So on the inside it looks pretty much stock, to be honest. The chap that I picked it up from told me that he had increased the hard drive size, and you may notice in the AGP slot there is an old NVIDIA MX 4000 graphic card. That's something that I've added, as I'm not too keen on the integrated graphics. The MX 4000 is not exactly the most powerful card in the world, but it's enough to run a couple of bits and pieces that I want to do. So let's have a little look. What I may have to do is I may have to grab my torch so we can bring some light to the situation. The system has, starting at the very top, what appears to be a light-on power supply. Now, this is a first for me. I haven't actually seen a light-on power supply before. I would assume that this is the correct power supply for this machine. However, I'm not 100% sure. I believe it to be around the 250, possibly 300 watt mark, but again, don't quote me. The system has a DVD RAM drive, of which I haven't seen a lot of those recently. I'm not sure if DVD RAM phased out or if modern drives are just a lot more capable, but this, when booting it up earlier on, it did mention that it had a DVD RAM drive, so something of interest anyway. The system has a 250 gig IDE hard drive and a floppy drive. Now, some people may be wondering why I have a bit of a tendency about floppy drives. They come in extremely useful for a lot of things. I did used to have a USB external one for my modern machines that don't seem to have any form of floppy drive capability, but unfortunately that one's gone missing. So I may use this machine myself as possibly a basic media center, maybe something to play emulated old games. Not 100% sure yet. Suffice to say, the inside is not exactly clean. It's not the dirtiest machine I've ever seen, but it's certainly not clean. I would try and get this surround off the processor, but unfortunately it's a little bit stiff. It might be something that I'll try and do in a little while if I'm feeling brave. So let me just grab this torch and we'll have a little look. Okay, I'm not sure how well the camera's going to pick this up, so if it's all blurry and horrible, my advanced apologies. Having a look inside the system, we have got, sat nestled over here, an AMI BIOS chip, CL79. It's based on an Intel chipset, believe it to be the 8000 series chipset, so it's nothing modern, but it's certainly capable. Battery's looking in quite good condition. We've got 3 PCI slots and an AGP ×8 slot there as well. The other thing that I have noticed inside this machine is we seem to have an internal speaker. Now, that internal speaker, I'm not sure if it's going to be capable of playing music files or whether it's just there for system post-test. But it will be interesting to see if that actually comes up as a device in Windows and if it's actually usable. On the network side of things, if we can just about see in there, we have a Broadcom LAN card. Not sure on the speed as of yet. Like I say, I've very briefly turned this machine on to make sure that it powered up and worked, which it seems to do, but we'll have a little look in depth in a moment. There's 2 RAM slots that are both populated, and they're both populated with 512 meg of DDR1 RAM. I believe them to be PC3200. I know that on the outside of it at least, those sticks do match. So let's have a little look on the back of the machine. Just spin that round. And on the back we have your standard ports. Really, it's nothing too special. We've got your PS2 mouse and keyboard. There's 4 USB, which I believe to be USB 2.0. The Broadcom Ethernet there. 6-channel sound, which I would hazard a guess as being a Realtek AC97. As on the somewhat cheaper systems, that tends to be the sort of thing that you find. Printer parallel, serial port, integrated graphics, which we will not be using, and we've got obviously the 4 expansion slots there. Not a bad little micro tower, or MIDI tower, whichever one you want to call it. The front panel is quite interesting. We've got a very bland design. Obviously you've got your hard drive activity, LED, power, a couple more USBs, some reasonable ventilation it seems as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the batteries in my camera very quickly, because it's bleeping at me that it's almost out of power, and that'll give me a chance to hook this up to a monitor and keyboard and see what it does. Okay, so the computer's all hooked up, so let's take this thing for a quick spin and see what we can see. It started up, which is always a good thing. Nice pretty boot up screen there. Hit F10, get into the BIOS, and we'll have a little look at the system specifications and see if there's any nice tools on these boards. Oh, seems I might hit F10 a bit too many times. So, system information. Ooh, it is an older style BIOS. Look at that screen. Version 3.31 of the AMI BIOS. System information. We have a Intel Pentium 4. It is rated at 2800 MHz, so 2.8 gig, and we have got 512 kilobytes of level 2 cache. So it's not the greatest Pentium 4. Memory bank 0, 512, memory bank 1, 512, so it does have a gig of reported memory there. Let's have a look in the standard CMOS setup, see how it's set up. Ah, right, okay. Well, the time and date are out. It thinks it's nearly 2:30 on February the 25th, 2013. That's, the date's right, but the time is not, so we might have to have a little look at that. Floppy drive is there as well. However, the IDE channels are set up to auto. Not a big fan of automatic setup, if I'm honest, so that's something that's going to be changed fairly soon. In the advanced setup, we've got the boot device priority, and not a whole lot else, to be quite honest. Hyper-threading technology on the machine seems to be disabled, but there doesn't seem to be a way of, or nothing at least obvious, to change that to enable it. Perhaps the processor is just not compatible, but it seems that the board is, if it has that functionality. Power management setup, not a lot in there really. restore AC on power loss. Brilliant feature. Peripheral setup to select whether your onboard LAN, graphics, USB, etc. are either on or off. What we will do, as we've installed an HP graphic card, we will set that to there's no option for just AGP. Okay, well, we'll leave that then, I suppose. USB controllers enabled. It has backwards compatibility for USB 1.1. Hardware monitor setup. There's all the temperatures, voltage and whatnot. CPU ratio selection. Okay. So there's some preset warning temperatures there. A CPU shutdown temperature of 90 degrees. I think you'd notice by that point that it was getting pretty hot. Current CPU temperature at the moment is 41 degrees Celsius or 105 degrees Fahrenheit. It seems to have the ability to pick up a chassis fan RPM speed, but it doesn't actually have any chassis fans in there at the moment. The only one that it has got is just the processor fan, and obviously I would assume, although I could be wrong, no, it does have one on the power supply as well, which is extremely quiet. I must say, this machine really is very, very quiet. I mean, obviously it's not under any form of load at the moment, but it is very, very quiet. What else have we got? The ability for passwords, and that's it. So what we'll do is we'll leave the BIOS and we'll get it to boot into its operating system, and we will have a little look at what we've got installed. Okay, so the operating system is all booted up. Not too sure about the resolution here. We'll have to have a little look at that. Yep, as I thought, 800 by 600. I know this monitor is capable of 1024 by 768, so what we'll do is we'll adjust it to that. I'm not too sure that I picked the right screen here really, as there's a fair bit of glare. I don't think the camera's picking that up, which can only be a good thing, but my eyes are certainly picking it up. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at the system properties. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, well, it seems whoever had this machine before me has used an OEM operating system from another machine, as it sure as hell is not a Fujitsu Siemens machine. Not only that, but this machine would be on the fast track to a reinstall anyway. XP Home Edition? I do not think so. Not that I have anything major against Windows XP Home Edition. I just like the ability to have the advanced controls at my disposal. And whilst I've got a copy of Windows XP Professional, the chances are I may use that, or it may end up that the machine ends up having Ubuntu put on it, as I don't think it's going to be quite capable of using the latest version of Ubuntu, although I could be wrong. It might be something to have an experiment with. So let's have a little look at the hardware that's installed on the machine. Aha! Well, straight away there's a small issue there with the Ethernet controller. That doesn't appear to be installed. Graphics adapters, obviously because we're using an AGP graphic card, the internal graphic card has turned off, so that's not listed. But we've got an NVIDIA GeForce MX 4000 for the graphic card. Have a little look at the hard drives. I've got a USB pen drive in there at the moment, but that's obviously not what we're interested in. Without taking the drive out, I'm not sure about the manufacturer of the drive. All it says is it is an ST3250620A, whatever that is off the top of my head. DVD drives, we've got a HLDT-ST DVD RAM. So it is a DVD RAM drive. Obviously floppy disk drive. The IDE controllers there. We've got an Intel 82801DB Ultra ATA storage controller. Obviously with the Intel chipset it's kind of a giveaway. Monitors, obviously that's my Relisys RE550 that I'm using at the moment. Processors, we've got Intel Pentium 4 rated at 2.8 gig. Sound card appears to be installed, so we'll have a little look at that. Now, interestingly enough, the audio hardware is not listed here. All we have is audio codecs, legacy audio drivers, video capture devices, media control drivers and video codecs. So I would go with the assumption that the driver for the sound card is not installed. But what we will do is we'll just do a quick scan for hardware changes and see if it brings it up. No, it hasn't. That might be something I'll have to look into the BIOS. It could be that it's been turned off. There is a blank missing from one of the PCI slots, and I'm just wondering if the internal sound card has been turned off and perhaps a third-party card was used. That's something I'm going to have to find out at a later date. Obviously there's just the basic system devices, obviously including interface controllers, PCI bridges, etc. Have a look at the advanced settings. All seems to be pretty much as it should be. Unfortunately I've not got any form of video or even internet connection on this machine at the moment, so there's no point in trying to do some form of graphical demonstration because it's simply not going to happen. However, it does appear that the previous owner went to the extent of finding the drivers for the machine, or at least what I assume are the drivers. That could be very helpful, although it begs the question still, why is the sound card not installed? Just have a little look through all programs. Doesn't seem to be any evidence of a sound card installed, so that's something we'll have to look into. They have a CPU identifying program here, so we'll open this up. I am familiar with the program. There we are. We have an Intel Pentium 4. It is a Northwood processor, so that's not a bad processor. Socket 478, bus speed 133, rated frontside bus 553, and 512 kilobytes of level 2 cache. We have a little look at the main board. Right, now this is interesting. This may prove that the power supply, the light-on power supply that is in the machine, is in fact the correct one, because it seems that the motherboard is a light-on tech motherboard, a model 0884H. That's interesting to know. The chipset is an Intel i845GE and it's revision B1. The south bridge is again Intel 82801DB. Have a little look at the memory. We've got a gig of memory installed. RAM frequencies at 166 MHz. It's not bad memory at all. Slot 1, there we are, PC 3200, rated at 200 MHz. Slot 2 is an identical stick of RAM, which is always good. The one thing that I cannot stand, and something that I always have to tell various people when I'm working on their machines, is always go with matching RAM, even on older systems. It's no good having, say for example, we'll use this as an example, two 512 meg sticks, but one's PC 2700 and one's PC 3200, because the faster speed RAM will always underclock to match the slower, so you're not going to get any benefits at all. if you're going to use RAM in pairs, even if it's not dual channel memory, at least get the same speeds. At the end of the day, if you buy another stick of RAM that's, say for example, PC3200 to go with your PC2700, why not get the two matching sticks? At the end of the day, you're paying for the speed. So that's all I have to say about that. That's ran over. So that's the RAM, and that's about it really. As for what I'm going to use this machine for, I really don't have any idea at the moment. I need to get it cleaned up and see what I've got to work with. I need to have a look at this audio issue, or potential issue anyway, and once that's sorted, I'll probably use it as a basic media center, maybe something possibly to play retro games on. I'm not really 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure I'll make up my mind in the next few days. Right, this video is dragging on a little bit, so I'm going to call it quits at this point. I hope you've enjoyed, and please feel free to leave us your comments.